Hello everybody, my name is Kari and today I am talking about Black Lives Matter and racism, specifically in the form of books and what I'm doing to educate myself about it. So I have a pile here, two of which are more on the legal end, specifically just about equality and inequality and how that's played out in the Supreme Court of the states, and the rest of which are very specifically about the history of Black people in the States. I do have white fragility on the way. I have read Why I Am No Longer Talking to White People About Race. The latter is about racism in the UK, and that one was fantastic. I mean, the subject matter was not fantastic, but the approach, the explanation was really well done. So I highly recommend, if you're looking to start educating yourself, be it UK or US, that's a great place to start. It at least gives you an idea. Another one would be Nelson Mandela's autobiography, The Long Walk to Freedom, or A Long Walk to Freedom, I apologize. Again, different country, but it does show a lot of the atrocities of apartheid and what that looked like. If you want something a little bit more modern than that, in South Africa, Trevor Noah's Born a Crime is also fantastic. Those books aside, let's talk about these ones. So the first one is one that is, like I said, more about the legal fight and more about equality than specifically Black people. However, given that the 20th century was such a big century for case law, and specifically about race law, I think it's really helpful, particularly as a lawyer, to take a look at some of the cases from that century and the last 50 years in particular, and see what that means, and maybe start forming a more complete picture in my head of what's been done by a court that is supposed to protect people's rights and privileges. And, you know, lives. It's not like that's in not the Constitution, the Declaration or anything. But anyway, so I'm hoping to get to this one. I don't know when it's gonna happen because I have a lot of books here, but this is one of them. It discusses, well, let's see if we can find some of the cases it discusses, shall we? Oh wow, okay. So the chapters are Protecting the Poor, Turning Against the Poor, Education, Campaign Finance, Democracy, Workers, Corporations, and Criminal Justice, which is going to have quite a lot of cases. Yep, it talks about Dred Scott, the Great Migration, Jim Crow laws, Brown v. Board. Let's see. Baker v. Carr, Buckley. Yep. Ooh, Citizens United, I hate that case. Although not as much as I hate Twombly and Iqbal, which we've shortened to Twickball. Those are awful. They are horrid, horrid cases, and whoever wrote them should be forced to go back to law school and relearn how to write, because there was no point to those cases. None. Spend way too much time on them in Civ Pro, but yeah, there's that one. Talk about Bush v. Gore, Wisconsin Right to Life. Gideon v. Wainwright, that's important. I'm not gonna lie, I don't recognize all of the cases that I'm seeing in here, but I think that's fantastic because it means that there's still more to learn and cases that I maybe didn't know about going into this. And then the other one that is more general is Fight of the Century by Michael Chabon and Elliot Waldman, which is people reflecting on 100 years of landmark ACLU cases. I will leave the ACLU's link down below if you want to go donate to them. They're a great organization, and yeah, they're a great organization. So I'll leave that linked down below, as well as petitions and other places to donate, things you can be doing to help the Black Lives Matter movement. Let me think. So, ooh, that's exciting. This starts with the foundation of the ACLU in 1920. And it says, a century after its creation, the ACLU remains the nation's premier defender of the rights and freedoms guaranteed by the Constitution. So they have an anthology of essays about the last 100 years since the ACLU has been created. They've been involved in Brown v. Board of Education, Roe v. Wade, Miranda v. Arizona, and if you don't know what Miranda v. Arizona is, it's the case that got us our Miranda rights. It was done in '63. That sounds right. I don't actually remember. I didn't take Crim Pro. So Yagyasi talks about Brown v. Board. We have Jessamine Ward talking about the profiling and racism as a black teenager in Mississippi, paralleled in a Chicago ordinance against loitering the ACLU successfully struck down as unconstitutional. So we've got essays from Neil Gaiman, Meg Wolitzer, Salman Rushdie, and Patchett, Viet Thanh Nguyen, Louise Erdrich, George Saunders, and more, including some of the ones that I mentioned. So this should be really good and very helpful, a lot of different points of view, and like I said, as a lawyer, it should be very interesting. They also have Jacqueline Woodson, Stephen Okazaki, on Korematsu. That was a big case. Whew. Yeah, they have a lot of the big cases. New York Times v. Sullivan, defamation, that's that. Yeah, having difficulties, but anyway, I'm really looking forward to this. And then the rest of them are very specifically about racism and how you deal with that, or slavery, or something to do with how we got here. So the first one is The Lynchings in Duluth by Michael Feddo. This I got because I live here. It is the 100th anniversary of 3 black men getting lynched for allegedly raping a white girl. Turns out they didn't. Surprise! Back in 1920. The anniversary is on June 15th, so Monday when this comes out. I read a book about it by the great-grandson of one of the white men who lynched the men, and that was interesting, but it wasn't good enough. I saw this one and I needed it. This is also particularly timely right now with all the Black Lives Matter protests and all of the police brutality and violence that's been occurring. So I'm hoping to get to this one definitely soon, especially since it's the 100-year anniversary. Next we have King Leopold's Ghost by Adam Hochschild. This has nothing to do with the States, nothing at all. But I am a firm believer in educating yourself on absolutely everything, everywhere that you can, which to me includes the massacres and, I want to say genocide, that feels right, done by Leopold. He was the king of Belgium, king of Belgium, and he killed 10 million people surrounding the Congo River. He was not well liked, is not well liked, and I only know that he was brutal and horrible. I would like to broaden my knowledge. It's not going to be easy, but I think this is also important because it shows that it's happening around the world, and we seem to focus in on the States, which, don't get me wrong, right this moment it's very important, but at the same time, to understand our part of it, our place as the States in the global world that we live in, we need to understand where it came from in other places as well. Or how it was acted upon, rather, because it didn't come from Leopold. He was a bit late for that. Anyway, next we have What Doesn't Kill You Makes You Blacker by Damon Young. This is a memoir in essays, and it says, for Damon Young, existing while black is an extreme sport. And that's, yeah, it is, I've heard. Obviously, I don't know. But I think this is also really important because it's gonna help me get an idea of what these people go through on a daily basis. I have never had to deal with that, and I don't think anybody ever should, because that's just inhumane and wrong and, well, you know, racist. But here we are, so this is going to be another book to start my education. This one I've already talked about, and I'm planning on reading in June the autobiography of Malcolm X as told to Alex Haley. This is Malcolm X's autobiography, obviously. He was a Muslim leader and an anti-integrationist, apparently. So this is just him telling his life story and how he got to where he was. Then we have Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American Slave. He is one of the most famous, I guess, ex-slaves. He's one of the most famous people from that time that we know of, specifically black people. And I've never read him. I've read Olaudah Equiano, I've read Mary Seacole. I have not read Sojourner Truth yet. She's also one. I have not read anything of Harriet Tubman's. Also an oversight. But this is definitely a good place to start. And it's nice and short. But this ought to be very interesting and probably heartbreaking. Most of these are going to be heartbreaking because none of this should be happening, but we created a system to be racist, and here we are. It's awful. The last one is Slavery's Reach, Southern Slaveholders in the North Star State. This was published by the Minnesota Historical Society Press, and it's by Christopher Lehman. Again, I live in Minnesota, and while I think it's important to know the broader world and the country I live in at large, I also think it's important and rather fascinating, actually, to learn about racism and slavery in my own state, especially since we are one of the northernmost states. We have a border with Canada, which makes it mind-boggling, but at the same time obvious, right? That we could have had slavery or lynched 3 men when we are supposed to be, you know, this nice tolerant state because we're in the north and we've always been anti-slavery. Well, maybe legally, but that's not how it really turned out. So this is another one. Like I said, I'm also waiting on White Fragility to show up. And as I see more books and as I read more articles, I will continue to educate myself because this is important and things don't change overnight, but I need to be kept abreast of those changes. Like I said, I will leave links to the ACLU and other organizations to which you can donate, as well as petitions you can sign. And my Twitter is always down there, and I have been retweeting comments and links and petitions like crazy for the last couple of weeks. So if you can't find one that you want to do down below, which just pick one and sign it. Really, it's not that hard. Or go check out my Twitter and sign one of those if you can't donate or can't go to a protest or something like that. If you are going to a protest, be safe, be aware, please be safe. Oh God, what a time we live in, right? Whew. So those are all of the books. I hope you enjoyed. If you've read any of these, are interested in any of these, let me know down in the comments below. One last thing, if you just straight up don't really want to do any of that, first of all, bye. Second of all, go sign something, donate, do something. And third of all, there is a town hall discussion I participated in with 5 or 6 other booktubers, and so I will link that down below as well. It's on Bookish Realm's channel, and it was Bookish Realm, Evil Queen Reads, Shade Tree Reads, that sounds right, Neeks, Erica, oh God. I will link it down below, and I will have all of their channels down below. They are all amazing women, and you should definitely go check them out, is the gist of this. It is a 2-hour discussion on race and booktube specifically, so check that out if you want 2 hours of a discussion on racism and books. Bye!